And here we are again at TCA Crossroads, where investors and entrepreneurs connect. And I'm with my co-host, Dave Burkus, Angel Investor Supreme. How are you, Dave?
I'm fine. What a surprise to see you, David. I mean, sometimes we just show up at the same place at the same time.
Yeah, I just pop up. I'm like, there's a good lawn, and all of a sudden this dandelion pops up like a dandelion sometimes.
Are you a weed? Is that what I'm hearing?
Let's not go in that direction exactly. That takes us into a whole different bunny hole.
Okay.
I'm thinking a white rabbit of all things. It's not a good analogy, really. Today we have a really interesting guest, don't we?
We do, and I'd like to introduce J.C. Ruffalo, and you might bring him on. And he is the venture partner for the Cove Fund. And fund management I know well, so this may be a bad thing rather than a good one. JC, good to have you, and we were going to grill you. Well,
I'm ready. I'm excited, and hopefully you guys can see me with the contrast of my background.
You're fine.
As sunny as it is outside here in California right now in SoCal, I don't know. I just don't have enough light hitting from my windows this afternoon, so I apologize if I'm a little dark. But thank you, Daves, for both having me here. I'm fired up to be here and tell you guys and spread the gospel of Cove Fund.
Very good. Okay, David, I'm going to let you throw the first question, and then I'm going to grill him.
Good. Okay. This is a toss-up question, JC, for 10 points. You have to pass a certain number or we keep you on through the night.
Is there a steel trap below me? Will I fall into like a pit of sharks with lasers on them?
That's been disabled. They made me take it off. No, I can't do it anymore. But let's talk about your background. You're a venture partner at Cove Fund, but I'd like to understand your background, how you got involved with Cove Fund, and what's the investment thesis. That's a good way to kick it off, I think.
For sure. So a little bit about me, born and raised here in Orange County, never leaving SoCal, never have, never will. I think it's a hotbed for innovation, hotbed for entrepreneurship. It has historically lacked capital, but Cove Fund and individuals like yourselves and a bunch of other funds have started to sprout up across the last kind of decade, if you will. So it's definitely moving the needle forward. But my background, I've been in 3 different industries in terms of an entrepreneur. First in the clothing and apparel space, which I'll never go back to. That was really, really hard being in fast fashion. And then I was in an email marketing company, affiliate marketing, send out offers, had a nice little exit. And then I ran some business completely different. I was in heavy hauling where I bought and sold big rigs for about 2.5 years. And then I got into the automotive side of it, where I'd scrap trucks out for parts. Did that, was like a big kid playing with Tonka trucks. And I eventually cleaned myself off, took a shower, and joined Octane and ran their Launchpad program. Dave Friedman, where I actually was introduced to you probably, 12, 15 years ago. Actually, probably 10 years ago, a little over that. Where I spearheaded the Launchpad program, where we helped kind of what I'm doing today was a nice evolution, kind of seed Series A companies that were located here in SoCal, help them with their business and capital funding strategies and try and connect them through the Octane network and put them on stage at certain Octane events. Through that, I met a bunch of different venture groups, and one right in our backyard here was Cove Fund, and I met Mike Benvenuti and Paul Voice, who I'm sure you're both familiar with, 2 great guys that have been involved with Cove Fund since the inception of Fund 1, which started in about 2015. And then they kind of dangled the carrot out and asked if I was interested in helping kind of spearhead Fund 3 here at Cove Fund. So very blessed to be in this role here. Absolutely love it. And it was a nice natural transition from what I was doing before.
Well, that does it. How many limited partners in Funds 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah. So, I'm not as familiar because I joined for Fund 3. But for Fund 3, I think we have 92, 93 LPs, limited partners in our fund. So we kind of act, if you will, like a super angel group, but we really have our own fund that we invest and deploy capital out of. But our members are very active and engaged. And every month we showcase some of the companies that my partners, Mike and Paul, are liking and want to go ahead and diligence. So we showcase those to our LPs. So they're very active. We keep our LPs very active in our process.
So how do you manage 90 limited partners? Is there a platform for 1 and 2? How do you handle payments to them? And then the K1s, all those
herdingcats.com, right? That's what I call it. But yeah, we have an admin, Jeannie. She helps really kind of coordinate all of that for the K1s, organizing just our monthly meetings. She's been with Cove Fund, I think, since Cove Fund 1, if I'm not mistaken. So she really spearheads all of that and helps us kind of stay organized and on top of it. As you know, 20 people, let alone 90 people, is a lot to manage. And from our demographic of our LPs, it's diverse, but 99% of them are based here in SoCal. So we have a close connection in that regard. So we're able to kind of manage them closely as well.
So
Great.
how big a fund is you have a fund, so how big a
Yes.
fund and how do you recruit LPs?
So yeah, often like a startup, and we'll have to do it again for Fund 4 probably in the next year or so. But my partners and I, we had to fundraise for Fund 3. Our Fund 3 size is about 25 million. But I want to also mention that we deploy capital of that 25 million, but our LPs often match us almost dollar for dollar and co-invest alongside us. So when I'm talking to startups, I really say we have maybe more like a $45-50 million size fund in terms of capital that we can deploy and add value to. But yeah, we keep our companies very engaged with our LPs because our LPs can add a lot of strategic value with relationships as well.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a larger fund than I thought by far. So what is the average investment?
Yeah. So we have actually, our core focus has always been seed stage, but we've also moved a little north upstream, if you will, to Series A, kind of early bridge to Series A. But traditionally, our initial check out of Fund 3 has been $500,000 for a seed stage investment. And that's coming from Cove Fund. And then we go back to our LPs, depending what's remaining on the round. If there's room, sometimes our LPs will match another, $250,000, $500,000. So it could be in total $1 million going and deployed into that startup. So $500,000 from Cove Fund for a Series A, kind of early Series A. We've moved up to about $750K as an initial check size to kind of play catch up from missing out on their seed round. So that's kind of the check sizes evolved for kind of an early Series A deal.
Wow. Again, are you leading any deals or are you following other VCs and others?
So out of this third fund, we are a little more than halfway deployed. We've invested as of almost today, 15 startups in total out of this third fund. And we started Fund 3 in really, I call it January of 2022. We kind of made our first investment. So we've been in about a little over 3.5 years, doing about 5 deals a year. And we've done 2 this year. We'll probably do another 2, maybe 3 before the end of the year. And hopefully our fund size in terms of capital or companies that we'll deploy into is probably 20, maybe 24, give or take. So kind of the range. We'll have maybe 7 to 8 more investments.
How much do you reserve for second rounds?
Yeah, so we are a seed and feed fund. So we're not trying to do any more than 10% of the total fund in any one startup. So it tends to be about 2, maybe 3 million for follow-on.
Nice. Again, surprised. David?
Yeah. So how do you I have 2 questions. How do you find your LPs? Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And number 2, how do you make decisions on the companies in which you invest? Do you have an investment committee? Do you have a group growth? Do you have a screening? We all raise our hands. We go to the dartboard. What do you do?
I close my eyes and throw that on the dartboard. Exactly. Yeah, that's what we all do.
Work for me in the stock market, by the way.
No, we have a very rigid process, very formal. We try to make it as painless as possible for the entrepreneurs, if you will. We don't want to try and waste anyone's time, but we're also scrutinous. We really kind of dig in and unpack a lot of things in diligence, especially if we're leading. So in terms of your first question, how do we kind of fundraise for Fund 3? I'd say about 75% are the follow-on investors from the prior funds. And then we got some new investors from the local community, trying to get more institutional capital and LPs in the door as well, especially as we look to fundraise Fund 4. But a lot of them are local individuals with unique backgrounds, whether C-suite, entrepreneurs, clinicians. We have some family offices. We have some later stage fund to funds, but it is storytelling. We're just like an entrepreneur. We have to go out and sell Cove Fund, what we do, the impact that we're making, how we look at deals, how our process is, and I'll get to that in a second. And what makes us unique compared to any other investment opportunity that's out there for these LPs, right? So it's really selling us, my partners and I, our track record, our story, our impact that we want to make here locally, and the ties to the community. So we sell them on all of that, really to help, foster more innovation here. In terms of our process, we have a unique process where as I mentioned, we keep our LPs pretty active and engaged in seeing the deals. So I like to summarize it that we have basically 5 steps, going from an initial meeting with a startup to check writing. So in step one, whether my partners and I will meet a startup, we kind of get them through our network, whether we go out with, pitch days, demo days, or, connections with our network here locally. And we only invest exclusively in SoCal, if I didn't already mention that. And so we have kind of the top of the funnel. And we see about 1,000 deals as a rough ballpark every year in terms of how, what we're looking at. We only invest in maybe 4 or 5. So the worst part about my job is saying no. But the best part is seeing tons of great innovation and great people and just some really wonderful ideas that will hopefully make an impact. But we have a process. So the companies will meet the partners inside step one, maybe several times until that partner wants to push them forward to step two. Step two, we do every month, step 2 and step 3. Step 2 is the second Friday typically of every month, where my partners and I, we get together and we'll each invite, 2 to 3 companies. So we'll have 5 to 7 companies that'll present to the 3 of us at step 2. It's our partner screening. Those companies will do a 45-minute Zoom call. They come on, they present their deck for 10, 20 minutes, followed by about 20, 30 minutes of Q&A from the partners. From there, we'll push forward two startups that we like to step 3. And that's the opportunity for the startup to present to our LPs. Really more of a formality, since my partners and I really have pushed the company forward to step 3, but we want to showcase the companies that we like to our LPs, get their thoughts and feedback from them. And it's also a recruiting process for us to get some of our LPs to help us diligence the deal. So the entrepreneur will come into UCI's Beal Center for Applied Innovation. We have a screening room there. The company will join in live, give their deck and presentation for 10, 20 minutes, followed by about 30 minutes of Q&A from our LPs. We usually get about half, maybe 60% of our LPs. So call it, 50 or so of our LPs that come online. We get about 10, maybe 15 in person, and then the other kind of 30, 35 virtually. So the entrepreneur will present to them. We'll hear our LPs feedback. We'll talk about the company as they leave. And then we'll ask some of our LPs who would like to kind of help us diligence the deal. So if a company gets to step 3, it's like a 85% likelihood we'll go to diligence, unless there's some glaring red flag that our LPs kind of bring to the table. We'll go to diligence. The first diligence, we'll ask for the data room. We'll send a list of questions in advance to the entrepreneur to kind of prepare for. First meeting's kind of high level. And then from there, we'll do some follow-on breakout meetings, maybe more specific on IP or financial model or go-to-market strategy or the tech, whatever it may be, ultimately leading up to step 5, which is check writing, right? So for a seed company, about $500,000. For maybe an early Series A, $750 check size. And then sometimes that gets matched by our LPs as well. So again, that's why we want to keep our LPs engaged early at that step 3. So when we ultimately do decide to invest, the LPs know and are engaged and kind of remember the deal and kind of see our pros and cons of why we're investing. We do have a formal process to go through an investment committee. We have, I think, about out of the 90, I think we have about 12 or 15, I don't know the exact number, investment committee members. And so we'll put together our thesis on why we want to invest in this startup, and then it goes up to the investment committee. So it is really utilizing our network of our LPs to help us manage the deals and make the best investment decisions. Is
a vote required of the LPs, or how do you handle it?
Yes, we do handle it at step 3 to get a vote. If the company presents to our LPs, we want to, ask our LPs to vote if they want to help us push the company forward to diligence. So that is how we do it inside of step 3, and then similar to the IC committee as well via a voting system.
So once you go through diligence, there's another vote, or is it
exactly.
That first vote?
There's another vote. Exactly.
And how do you gather a majority for that vote?
We just have to make sure, like when we do it at step 3, if there's, 50 of our LPs, want to make sure there's more than, 24, 25 that are voting. So we have to be a little more than half is kind of our minimum. Usually we get about 75% voting, pushing those deals forward before.
So you have to have a quorum of 50% to move it, and so quorum, and of that 50%, 75% of those 50 would have to say yes. So let's say if you have 100 members, you really need 35 people to make it go forward into funding, right?
Correct. Just based on who's there live to, participate in the step 3 as well as the investment committee. But we have to have all those investment committee members vote.
So JC, you mentioned a while ago that in making the pitch to potential limited partners, that you talked about successes, and it's easy to talk about individuals for success. How about Fund 1? It's 10 years old. So how is Fund 1 doing?
So I am not as well versed in Fund 1 or as Fund 2. I know a little bit of the deals as I was not involved with Fund 1 or 2. Fund 1, I believe, was started by 5 individuals. They invested in 20 startups. Also, the thesis for Fund 1 is different than what it is for Fund 2 and 3.
Yes.
But I know they've had a lot of success in Fund 1. Fund 2, they've had a recent success with a IPO that happened, I want to say, mid-July with Carlsmed, the spine orthopedic company. So that's kind of been the success metrics. But for Fund 1, I don't believe there's been a liquidity event per se that we can kind of plant our flag and take claim for yet. But I know. And at seed stages, I know you're all well versed. It's a 5, if not 10-year plus journey for liquidity or some sort of exit. So
well aware of that.
Yeah. So it's a long journey, and being in my role here, very blessed to be here. But I honestly won't know if I'm a good venture partner until 10 years from now. So I think and believe and have full confidence I am, but time will tell.
Yeah. So Angel Capital Association says it's about a 7-year average.
Yeah.
For a liquidity event. I don't believe that. I think it's closer to 11.
Right.
But that's for a successful event. Write-offs obviously occur a lot before that.
Yes.
So yeah, even the TCA funds, the oldest one is 2010, is still alive, and it's in positive territory. Fund 2 is in great positive territory, 2013. But you can get an idea that it takes a long time to really tell how you're doing.
It really does. So
limited partner patience.
Exactly. And that's, we're selling them on a diverse, what we do is very different asset class with what you do with your capital. And, and it's also that paying it forward mentality into these startups and helping them make an impact. So we're very lucky to have the LP support that we do and the level of engagement that they provide and give back to us.
Let me ask you, do you see any themes in the future that you really want to focus on? I mean, AI is clearly,
everywhere.
Like breathing air these days, like it has to be, and it's AI, But are there specific themes where your investment thesis is changing over slightly from being just anything versus thematic? And how are you getting the entrepreneurs to know about Cove Fund and be willing to go through their process?
Right. So great questions. I'm personally the most excited about in terms of new industries that are starting to, pop up. Aerospace and defense, with El Segundo and Camp Pendleton. Orange County is kind of sandwiched in between those two. I think is a real hotbed for aerospace and defense. So I'm certainly seeing a surge in more activity in that landscape and that innovation space that I'm personally excited on. But Cove Fund as a whole has always been really strongly focused in medical device, and that broadens with a broad range of industries, whether cardio, neuro, ophthalmology, you name it, as well as B2B Saas. Those are kind of the core elements that Cove Fund can really specialize, diligence, be a good lead investor in. But we are a generalist fund. The only kind of industries we tend to shy away from because we don't have great domain expertise is consumer products and pharma. Just long tailwinds with pharma, even more than 10 years, right? It's probably a 15, 20-year timeline. So we're trying to avoid those industries unless we absolutely, love the deal. But we tend to stay within our core strengths of B2B SaaS, medical device, and we are getting more and more excited about aerospace and defense.
Yeah. So do you see an overlap with what TCA is doing, the TCA Venture Group, which, we're also like down the street or down the hall from you. But we also invest in a variety of very diversified, but clearly med device, med technology, SaaS, and what I call X-Tech, ag tech, med tech, ed tech, whatever.
Yeah.
So do you see an overlap, and how do these groups work together? How do you fit into the ecosystem?
Yeah, so we want to be as collaborative and supportive and complementary. We are by no means trying to be competitive. We want to synergize and share deal flow and syndicate deals. We have Lisa Walker, who is a LP in Cove Fund, very close with yourselves, and Pat Wang with TCA and several of the members. So there's a lot of overlap individually with TCA that we've seen, as well as New Fund down in San Diego. We collaborate with a lot of the angel groups here locally, especially as we kind of try and fill out some of these rounds, whether we lead or co-lead or just kind of ride the tailwinds, the tailcoats on some other investors. But yes, we try and fit in and try and be complementary to a lot of the other institutional capital partners here. Even just leveraging our expertise. Maybe we're not putting capital in, but we can kind of help open some doors. myself trying to be as super collaborative as possible. The more I give, oftentimes the more it comes back tenfold. Not that I need it or ask for it in return, but it's kind of just the motto that I've lived by in terms of a theme. So the more supportive we are, the better and bigger impact we can have.
I got to believe that your history with Octane and Launchpad is relevant for what you're talking about here.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Love Octane, was just participating in their high tech awards. It's great to see some of the companies that I helped really early on in the Octane days and Launchpad that are now being voted as, most innovation or best innovation here in Orange County. So it's great to see that growth. Or going to just the Octane events in general, whether it's the Medical Technology Innovation Forum, they have a cardio technology, I'm blinking on the name, but they have a ton of great events that I try and attend, as well as a bunch of great other innovation partners. Connect San Diego, the Alliance for SoCal up in LA. I'm often in the car driving up and down LA, San Diego, sometimes both in a day. So you have to do that, right? To get access to some of the deals that we want to see.
You don't have one of the new Tesla flying cars yet?
Not yet. It's on pre-order.
Good to hear it.
So do you have limited partners or others that attend demo days, especially do you go to San Francisco to see any of those?
So I will look at some deals that maybe have a UC affiliated startup connection, whether it's IP licensing, professor-led, alumni-led. So we can make some ties outside of SoCal if there's a tie to a UC school connection. But our core focus is just exclusively investing in Southern California. So Santa Barbara down to San Diego. So that's why I'm kind of driving here locally more so than going to the Bay Area. But yeah, we'll look at deals in, one of our recent investments as of last year, actually, Melio Tech. The CEO is based in San Francisco, but the technology is licensed out of UC San Diego. So we're able to kind of make those sort of ties, if you will.
And you're not formally tied with UCLA. You just happen to meet at UCLA. Is that right?
Yes, there's still the genesis of Cove Fund 1 was created out of UC Irvine. And I believe with Richard Sudak, Tech Coast Angels, kind of a next step evolution to invest at the next step, if you will, seed. So there is the genesis tie where some of the carry goes back as a partner to the UC Irvine school system, as well as there's part of that in Fund 2 and Fund 3. So very collaborative with UCI, try and be at the forefront of any kind of innovation that they're seeing through tech transfer or just being at the Beal Center for Applied Innovation and talking to Errol and some of the other team members there.
This has been really interesting, and I'm really glad that, Cove Fund, and I know most of the players at Cove Fund, either from my old days or my current days or my Octane days. So I'm really glad that you're part of this ecosystem. And I know we've shared deals. And I have to repeat to everyone, we are not competitive across the board with any angel group. We do a lot of syndication. We always will continue with that. We're running out of time, unfortunately, but I want to turn it over to Dave for his last question.
My last question, looking at the investments you've made so far, based upon those investments, give me your optimistic approach as far as how you think these funds will end up.
Oh man, it's like picking your favorite child, and I have two children and I don't have a favorite, but different times of the day, you like them a little differently. I'm really proud of our portfolio with Fund 3. We are very diverse. We have some digital health diagnostic tools. I'm very bullish on that landscape. We love robotics and defense, and we're making some new investments there, which I think will have good outcomes, great outcomes, I believe. I'm fully confident on that. And we're really looking at founders that have a track record, understand the industry, have been there, know what it takes to keep the lights on, make payroll. So those are the types of founders that we look for, because at this early stage, as you know, you're really taking a big bet on the team. That's probably 75% of the decision making right up front. So for us, it's really the team, how well we mesh with them, the chemistry, and how well they know the landscape, how unique is their solution to the problem that they're trying to solve, and how big of an impact they can make. So when you bottle it all up, and we have 15 outstanding companies, let alone, in total 55 portfolio companies across all three funds, very proud of them all, and proud of the opportunities that we have ahead of us. I think the market looks a little bit more bright, hopefully, in the near term for the next 6 months. I'm trying to be optimistic about that. So I'm hopeful that we'll have some more outcomes in the next year that we'll see. So very excited about some of these companies that we have in our portfolio that are making tremendous strides and growing. in our third fund, we've got 2 or 3. I think we have 3 startups that have already successfully raised their Series A. So that's a good little metric for us.
Well, there's the conclusion for you, David.
Okay. I think that's a good conclusion. I'm really glad that you were able to spend some time with us, JC. It's always great to see you. It's funny, I see you on Zoom, but I don't see you around the halls. I mean, which is kind of bizarre because that's the way it is today. Yeah,
we're all too busy on these little screens, right? Sometimes we need to break out of them.
Yeah, I don't know how tall you are anymore. I mean, you look small. I don't know.
Yeah, about 6'2", 6 inches and 2 centimeters.
But anyway, it's so good to see you. Say hi to Mike. Say hi to the rest of the crew over at the Cove Fund. Hope the listening audience got a good view of where the Cove Fund fits in terms of investing, how they do it, their size, their growth, the way they make decisions. And on behalf of Dave Burkus and I, to the listeners, if you like us with that little heart thing, follow us, share us, and we look forward to seeing you again.